Everyone. My name is Nayaswami Padma, and I'm here today to bring you the original lessons of Paramhansa Yogananda written back in 1925. At noontime every day, my husband and I alternate offering just some highlights from these lessons. And so today, I'm going to be talking about the subject of intuition. But before I do, I would like to play Yogananda's voice offering these thoughts of prayer. Hold on.
The blessing of the great presence of God drops down upon you to the antenna of your hands, and may that love of God settle in your brain and your heart forever and forever. That is my wish and my appreciation for the love of you all who is behind those gifts, the imperishable gift. I bow to the great God in me and in all of you.
There's nothing like his voice to sort of set the tone of our subject. And the subject today, as I said, is intuition. And I feel as though I could speak on this topic for weeks on end and probably still not exhaust it. So I'm just going to only offer some highlights. Yogananda defines intuition essentially as the soul's power to know God, to basically understand and experience our unity with God. And he differentiates intuition from a hunch, a mere hunch. We all get those. Intuition, true intuition, is exactly that. It is true. It comes not by reason. It comes not by the senses. It comes from an inner knowing. So often I hear people saying, well, I had an intuition about this or that might happen. And what they're usually referring to is a hunch. Intuition is calm. It's completely transparent of ego. There is no ego there. It is simply a knowing. And the way he describes it, it is best nurtured at the end of our meditations. Once we have calmed the mind and calmed the heart, then the divine presence, the divine voice, be still and know that I am God. That presence can be more clearly heard and experienced. And that's when intuition is born. But it's not only at that time, it's just that we can help develop it further by meditating more. My husband and I like to tease each other because I tend to get my intuition in the shower. It never fails, almost without any fail. If I need ideas for giving a talk or a sense of how to approach something or somebody, it typically comes to me in the shower. It probably would not do so if I didn't also meditate, but nevertheless, and other people might get it when they're out for a run, or, people have different ways when they're out in nature. In any case, intuition is developed when the heart and mind can be still. And I love, and I'm gonna sort of focus on this here. He, this section in the lessons is actually relatively short, but he does talk about this subject in other aspects of these original lessons. But he has this one here that is so charming in the way, I just love the way he describes things. He says, everyone possesses this faculty more or less, meaning intuition. It peeps forth through the loopholes of calmness produced in the interwoven materials of thought and constant sensations. It gives the knowledge of things without requiring any objective or inferential data. Everyone knows this from examples in his own life. I love that. It peeps forth through the loopholes of calmness. Such a colorful way of describing this experience, but it's so very, very true. And he says, intuition is classified: crude intuition, semi-developed through frequent but unconscious exercise in business or anything else, and consciously developed intuition won by meditation. The latter is, of course, what he's focusing on in these lessons. He says intuition, real intuition, can never be wrong. It doesn't consist of simply believing in something doggedly, but in knowing directly and unmistakingly. And intuition doesn't contradict, but is always supported by right sense, perception, reason, and inference. All things known by intuition are invariably true, both materially and intellectually, but the opposite is not always true. And so he goes on to describe, he says, intuition is developed by 1, common sense, by applying and exercising it; 2, daily introspection and analysis; 3, depth of thought and continued activity in one direction; 4, calmness; 5, best of all, by meditation, holding to its calm after effects. He also mentions in here that intuition is not one of these things that, because something has happened a certain way all the time in our lives, that therefore it follows that intuitively that's going to happen again. Intuition is always fresh and insightful, can change course or direction if, say, by chance we've misunderstood a thing in the past. In other words, just because something's been done a certain way doesn't mean that it has to continue to be done that way. And this is a very important part to understand in our human experience of intuition. And so I encourage you to experiment with it in your meditation, to sit long enough after you're finished with the techniques, to allow that stillness to be planted more and more completely in your inner life, and you will begin to see true intuition developing very naturally on its own. Joy to you, and we'll see you again tomorrow